Okay, so when you think about the ultimate surveillance state,
Right.
like Big Brother, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it, cameras on every corner?
Drones, maybe? The
It,
standard Hollywood version, yeah. It's
eh,
all external, watching you from the outside.
exactly. But today, we're looking at a source that says basically throw all of that out.
That it's Toy Town stuff.
Yeah. We're diving into this transcript that argues the real surveillance isn't happening around you, it's happening inside you.
It's a pretty terrifying premise.
And reading it, it feels like, I don't know, like a cyberpunk novel that's insisting it's nonfiction.
While we're all worried about cameras and microphones, the game has moved on to physiological signal acquisition.
Physiological signal acquisition.
Physiological signal acquisition. That sounds so medical.
It does, but in this context, it's been weaponized. It's this shift from watching what you do to monitoring how you function.
Yeah.
Your biology as a data stream.
So the body itself is being integrated into a network.
This is current, funded, and operational right now. But our goal here today is to unpack the actual mechanism, a very specific formula for how this happens and why, traditional resistance is worse than useless.
Okay, let's get into that.
A Supreme Court case. It involves a transgender teenager and the ACLU. Now, you hear that and you immediately think politics.
You brace for political debate. Yeah.
Nope, you're missing the point entirely.
That entire controversy is just a paid ad. It's engineered. Dragnet.
A dragnet.
For what?
For your data, an email capturing campaign.
$5.
$5 a pop. When you sign one of these online petitions, doesn't matter what side you're on.
Right. Save the kids, protect rights, whatever.
That email signature you provide is sold for $5 to data aggregators.
$5 a head. I mean, that turns outrage into a really profitable business model.
It's the economics of outrage. Even the influencers who say they're fighting for truth are just managing perception and harvesting your data.
So the slogans are just bait. They're just the bait on the hook. They go nowhere.
Which is a key point.
Look, if you actually wanted to change a law, you would be lobbying Congress. You'd be dealing with business industry market share.
You wouldn't be clicking a button on a website.
Exactly. Stop clicking. You're not fighting the power. You're building their mailing list.
And that mailing list is just the start, the entry point.
And that's where we get to the follow the money part. Who's buying this data? And more importantly, why? Points right at the National Institute of Health, the NIH. Flags a specific R&D budget increase. $31 million.
Which, in government spending, doesn't sound huge on its own.
It's not. The total budget is $47 billion. But the number that really jumps out is tied to something called the Cures Act.
The Cures Act?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds good. Who doesn't want cures?
Right. That's the branding. January 29th, 2026. The funding for the Cures Act spikes by $99 million on that exact date.
Okay, so why?
The Cures Act isn't about medicine and the way we think about it. It's about interoperability.
Interoperability, that's a tech term. Getting different systems to talk to each other.
Exactly. And in this context, it means getting your health data to talk to national defense systems. Healthcare 5.0.
Healthcare 5.0.
The Internet of Bodies. Lists the critical infrastructure getting this money. Hospitals, water systems, the Golden Dome, which I assume is the Capitol and national defense.
It's drawing a straight line from your private medical data to national security intelligence.
And for commerce, too. The law is just. It's so far behind the tech. The military is 30 years ahead.
30 years.
And if the military is 30 years ahead and the laws are decades behind, that leaves this huge gap.
Where civilians are completely unprotected.
Right. We're just walking around while this tech is being deployed, and there are no legal guardrails.
Okay, so we have the motive, which is data harvesting. We have the funding, billions in government money.
Yeah.
Now we need the mechanism.
How?
This is the real core of it.
Because this is where it gets really sci-fi.
It's not vague, a three-part cocktail, a chemical and biological formula to augment the human body so it can be tracked.
Okay, let's break it down. Ingredient number 1 is methylene blue.
Methylene blue. Now, people know this from like fish tanks or biohackers use it.
Right, for focus.
A contrast dye.
Yeah.
Very similar to what you'd get for an MRI. A contrast dye, so it makes things show up.
Precisely. In an MRI, they might inject you with gadolinium so your veins pop on the scan. Methylene blue does the same thing, but for optical sensors, it lights you up.
It literally makes your insides visible to a certain spectrum of light.
It clears out the noise so the sensor can see the signal. Okay, so that's part 1.
Okay. Ingredient 2.
Zeolite. Natural Chipotle Zeolite.
I know Zeolite. It's a detox supplement. You buy it at health food stores.
And that's the cover. It's actually a payload delivery system. It's been used for 20 years and this is a mouthful, optical acoustic quantum nanosensors.
Whoa. Optical acoustic quantum nanosensors. What does that even mean?
Let's just break it down. Optical is light, acoustic is sound, nano is microscopic.
Okay.
So she's tiny, tiny sensors that can enter the body, carried by the zeolite, and transmit data using light and sound. The zeolite is basically the delivery truck that drives the sensors into your cells.
Wow. Okay, so methylene blue makes you visible. Zeolite gets the tech inside you. What's the third piece?
Nano gold and nano silver.
Metals.
Conductive metals. They're used to actuate the signal.
Actuate, like to start it, to trigger it.
Exactly. Your body already runs on electricity. Your nerves fire with these little electrical impulses.
Right.
These nanometals act like tiny antennas inside you. They boost your body's natural bioelectricity so it can be picked up remotely.
So you have a dye to make you visible, a carrier to get the tech in, and metals to boost the signal.
That's the formula.
And the result of all this.
The result is that humans are being lit up like Christmas trees.
That is a vivid image.
It is. It's a world where machine learning and body area networks can just read your biosignals from a distance. They don't need a chip in your hand. Your entire body becomes the signal.
And this connects to a point about how we're looking for the wrong kind of signal. We're all worried about 5G towers.
That's old news. RF is old. Graphene is old. So if you're out there looking for radio waves, you are looking in completely the wrong place.
So what's the right place?
The new frontier is molecular communication and biophotonics.
Biophotonics. So light and biology.
Yes. Using light signals, often invisible light, to transmit data through your body's tissues. And molecular communication is what it sounds like, encoding data into molecules.
Kind of like how our bodies use hormones.
It's a very similar concept that the entire surveillance grid has switched to a frequency and a method that most people aren't even equipped to look for.
So if you're out there with your EMF meter, you're trying to catch a whisper with a butterfly net.
That is a perfect analogy. You're using the wrong tool for the wrong spectrum.
I've never heard someone go after those anti-radiation pendants so hard.
These things might block some extremely low-frequency waves, at best, but since the whole system has moved on to optical and acoustic signals, those pendants are totally useless.
The FCC, the FDA, and HiPay all agree they don't block us.
It's a harsh assessment, as taking advantage of people who are scared.
You're buying a screen door for a submarine. You're protecting against the wrong thing.
That's it, exactly. You can't buy your way out of this with a $50 necklace.
And speaking of biology, this brings us to what I thought was the most, fascinating part of this whole thing.
The pivot to religion.
Yeah. Usually when a tech whistleblower starts talking about God, my eyes glaze over.
Yeah. It's things like auras and chakras.
Right. Some distractions.
God made the body perfectly. That what people call an aura, that energy field around you, is actually just the peripheral nervous system.
Whoa. Hold on. So the energy field isn't spiritual. It's just your nerves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And chakras. Just the physical placement of your internal organs, your veins, your arteries.
So why does this distinction matter so much? Why get so angry about someone calling it an aura?
Because of the login.
The login.
Think about it. If you believe your aura feels weird because of, bad vibes or a demon, what do?
You pray, you sage your room, you look for a spiritual fix.
Right. But if you understand that your aura is a bioelectric field and that technology can hack that field, then you realize you're not being haunted. You're being accessed.
Oh, wow. So what people are calling spiritual warfare is actually technological warfare that's just disguised as spirituality.
These systems log into your peripheral nervous system.
So don't pray the tech away. Understand the tech.
Precisely. Science and faith aren't in conflict. Because by calling it magic, they're denying the complexity of the biology that God created and that the government is now exploiting.
So, where does that leave everyone? It's a lot. We've got a surveillance grid, a biological formula, useless products, and a misreading of our own bodies.
What do? First, stop signing petitions. Just stop. Starve the algorithm.
Okay, no more click-emativism. Got it.
Second, stop buying pendants. Save your money. Third, start reading. You can't fight this legally yet. The laws are 30 years behind. You can't buy your way out. You have to take your biology back.
What does that even mean, take your biology back?
I think it means accepting the reality. Accepting that your body is now part of a cyber-physical backbone. You're a node in the network.
So you have to stop chasing ghosts and start understanding the data your own body's broadcasting.
That seems to be it. And it leads to this really chilling final thought about ownership.
Yeah, this is the question that sticks with you.
It really does. If your heartbeat, your biosignals are being mined for data, and that data has value, like cryptocurrency.
Wait, mining crypto with your heartbeat? That was the phrase.
That's the concept. If your biological signals are being mined for profit by these healthcare 5.0 companies, and if your very veins are being mapped by this smart dust, then who actually owns your body anymore?
It stops being a philosophical question about free will.
And becomes a property dispute.
Is your body your own? Or is it just hardware for their infrastructure?
That is a lot to process. It completely flips the script on privacy. It's not about your browser history, it's about your nervous system.
Hiding is getting harder and harder. The lights are already on.
And the walls are made of glass.
Well, on that terrifying note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. It definitely makes you think twice about what connected really means.
Absolutely. Situational awareness is key.
Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes open and maybe check your peripheral nervous system. We'll see you next time.